We have a disturbing in a good way for Apocaflix now. I think Smashing Padme is our alternate Padawan shirt.
Oh my goodness!
I can't, dude. I cannot get that out of my head.
I think you just permanently ruined that scene with me
Oh my
of
God.
Obi-Wan just standing at the top with his arms on his hips.
Oh my God.
Hold on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Padawan Podcast, Apocaflix Movies All Star Wars podcast, where we are breaking down everything from the galaxy far, far away. I'm your host, Jake Berlin, a.k.a. Qui-Gon Jake, and I am joined today by my regular table members here. I got Obi-Wan Kenobi right there in the middle, Mr. Jacob Barley, and the Grand Admiral Sino himself, Brian Avalosino. How you gentlemen doing?
Hello there. Pretty good.
Gotta let him say it first.
Always. How you doing, Brian?
Doing good. It's too hot for me. But
Is it hot where you are? I mean, we're not that far away, but you don't got the AC blasting?
no, I definitely do.
Oh, okay.
It's still hot.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're triple digits. We're triple digits all week long too, which is even rougher where we are. Okay, so today, if you know through the thumbnail, through the title of the video, why you clicked on this video, we are officially ranking our Star Wars live action movies. We're going to be leaving out the Clone Wars film for this specific ranking, and we're tackling the live action films. We've never done this before as a group. We've only ever done the Skywalker saga, so we're bringing in Rogue One and Solo to this ranking, and it's going to be very interesting because we are doing, as we have been the last month, revealing our personal list, and then I'm going to be counting as we go the consensus list, and we will get to our top 5 Star Wars films official ranking for the Padawan Podcast. It's going to be very, very interesting. And so without further ado, if you guys don't have anything left to say, let's go ahead and officially get to this ranking. I went Brian, Jacob, Brian. So Jacob, that falls strictly to you this time to start us off. What is your number 11 Star Wars film?
All right. I want to say that this, even though I said it wasn't the most difficult list, it was very difficult. I literally at least like all of these movies, even the worst one. But also, both of you are going to be mad at me at one point or another during this list. Just want to warn you.
I think I know what's coming.
But I will say, number 11 is for damn sure Attack of the Clones. Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And even this movie we've talked about, there's so many great moments, but it is by far the worst. It has the most bad footage in it. I guess that's the only way to describe it. Like, it literally has the most screen time that is terrible and just unimportant for the most part. But yeah, we could talk about the Anakin and Padme stuff all day. Just this movie just doesn't work for me as much as most do. I've gone on like a roller coaster relationship with the prequels, very high as a child, kind of lower in my teens and early adulthood. But then I've appreciated them more lately. But this is the one that I still cringe at the most. So Attack of the Clones is in the 11th spot.
Fair, that is for most people. So I'm definitely not surprised by that decision. Mr. Avalosino?
I echo you, Jacob, because that is my number.
I mean, might as well. I echo your sentiments as well. So
okay, so
let's just place my comments for all three of our responses.
Yes, it's no different for any of us. It's no different for any three of us. It's the worst of the 11. Yeah. And like you said, Jacob, we're prequel babies, so we like things about it, but it is the worst out of the 11.
It's so funny though, because I know, Jake, you keep saying we should do a what movie have you 180'd on? If we did it, this one would be the bad way because
the opposite direction.
Yeah, I was. This movie was so cool because of the end of the movie when I was little. Just you finally get to see the Jedi run into battle with clone troopers, the stadium fight scene. But that's like the only thing anyone ever talks about out of that movie is the very end.
I would say the opening chase scene with Anakin.
Yeah, and then that's talked about the Yoda fight.
Yeah. There are some really cool things, but it's for me, the best way I can describe it is it's the worst storytelling out of the 11.
Yeah.
Because it's all about the love. It's all about the love aspect of this. And I'm just like, no, that's not Star Wars. No, like Star Wars
This is not Star
love in
Wars.
it, but it's not the main aspect of Star Wars. Like, leave that to a good side piece of the story, like they did with Han and Leia.
It should have been like like they should have shown battles and stuff like that, and then
It's literally called Attack of the Clones. That doesn't happen until the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like Batman v Superman, you know?
Yeah, it definitely should have been named. The movie should have been named somewhere around Anakin and Padme's story, to be honest, because that's the movie. I would say maybe 30 minutes into the movie, we're with them two alone on her planet, and that's it. The movie just pauses for like an hour, it feels like, and then it picks up at the end, but not the best even at that. So
agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and move on to number 10. And Bartley, that goes right back to you.
All right. So honestly, Attack of the Clones is the only one that I consider a bad movie. It really is.
I would echo those sentiments.
Everything above this,
Yeah.
I actually really like to love. And I say this to kind of cushion this. Number 10 is Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
I knew it. You
Look,
suck.
Sorry, Jake, but
It's
look,
fair.
He's been hanging around Keith too much on Bartley and Barnes.
not necessarily. Keith is too hard on. Like Keith hates this movie. I actually really like it. Look, I think I haven't had enough time with this movie, to be honest, to appreciate it more. I guarantee you, the more I watch it, the more I'm gonna like it. That almost happens with every Star Wars movie for me. And I just think it's very young for me, and I'm still processing it in a way, honestly, because I still think about it a lot, and I've watched it less than 5 times. I believe I watched it 4 times overall. So I definitely need some more time with it. But I just think I was a little disappointed overall with the movie. We've talked about it a lot, but there's some things in here that I absolutely love as well. So it's, like I said, I still like this movie a lot, but it's in the number 10 spot.
Fair enough.
And this is where our echoes change because
paths go a different way.
yes,
That's a good thing. Our list would be boring if they were all the same.
Yeah. For me, I think if you know me, you know which one this is for me, and that's Return of the Jedi. Oh
wow! I always forget about this. Oh my goodness!
I just don't. This movie just doesn't do it for me. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. Honestly, it's probably because of the beginning of the movie. To me, the beginning of the movie is just kind of slow. Like it's not like a New Hope where it's like it's leading into something.
You don't like Jabba's palace?
Not really. Like honestly, like
Fake.
it kind of I mean, things don't start picking up until they're about to throw Han Solo into the and Luke Skywalker into the Sarlacc pit. And that's like what, at least 20-30 minutes into this movie? I mean,
it's called setup, Brian.
I know, but it's just
I'm just giving you
no.
I think Brian has only seen the special editions, and that's why I accept this.
Maybe
he's seen the singer, right? No.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a different version of it.
That the originals don't have it.
Oh, well then that's probably why.
Oh my!
See, it's okay. It's okay. It all has to do with that singing scene.
That scene is horrible. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just because I haven't watched it in a long time. Maybe I just need to go back and. I mean, I've written this movie off. It's for me. That's why it's so low. So maybe if I went back and watched it, it might move up a couple spaces. But
go back and watch it, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know. I look at the rest of my list and I just don't see anything that could go down really. So
oh my god,
hey, that's why everybody's list is personal. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It's all good. All right, number 10 for me. I had a hard time with the number 10 spot because it was battling between 2 movies, and like Jacob said, everything from this spot up, like I really do. I enjoy to really, really like to absolutely love. And this is one that I really, really enjoyed, and that's the Phantom Menace, episode 1. I had a hard time putting it in the 10 spot because I've watched it like 2 or 3 times in the last year alone, and I've really just kind of like accepted it for what it is. And we've talked about it multiple times how the sequel trilogy has kind of made us go back and rewatch these prequel movies. And because we grew up in that era, we call ourselves prequel babies. We say it all the time. I've really come to enjoy and appreciate the movies more as they grow older. And we talk about the pod race scene, obviously. We talk about the dual fates, obviously, and Qui-Gon, but also Darth Maul and knowing everything that happens following this and learning some things that happened before this as well, and kind of his path and kind of how this specific story connects to everything else. And the addition of the Clone Wars series and Rebels and the sequel trilogy really helped these movies grow. And even though it's in my 10 spot, like really, it's really not fair because all the movies above it for me are just better. But I really could put this movie on. Like if it's on TNT, like they have those marathons, I would happily sit down for 2+ hours and watch this movie and be totally happy wasting 2.5 hours of my day to enjoy this movie. So although it's low, it's still a very, very worthy movie. So that is episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Fair enough.
Not bad. All right, so I guess it's back to me now. All right, so we're on number 9, and this is interesting because this movie I thought for sure would have been lower, would have been lower, but it's not. It's Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I thought when it came down to it, I actually like this movie more than The Rise of Skywalker as of now. It's so weird. I might include The Last Jedi in that 180 conversation, to be honest. I don't hate it as much as I did at one point. But I still look, the worst thing they did is the biggest thing they did, which is killing Luke Skywalker in the movie. So it's very hard for me to get over that. Yes.
Jacob and I both. I've been on his side from the very beginning. Yeah, both you and I have been talking about this for 2+ years.
From now. Right away. Yeah. Probably walking out of the theater too, to be honest. But that hurts a little bit because I'm not the person who knows what would have been right to do in that scenario, but I just know it didn't
kill him.
Yeah, I just know it didn't sit well with me. And the thing about this movie for me is Kylo and Rey. I love their dynamic in this movie. Oh my goodness. Just their conversations when they're communicating through the Force from galaxies away. And I don't know. I always think about that when it comes to this movie. It's just so cool. And we talked about Luke too. I love the way Luke was. I'm okay with him going away to hide. I'm okay with him being a grumpy old man, but I wanted him to come out of hiding and just not necessarily face the First Order with a laser sword, but I wanted him to do something heroic. Even if, let's say hypothetically, he leaves the island and does a Han Solo type thing in A New Hope, like comes and saves the day in his X-Wing, just as a pilot does something really cool and then survives. Can you imagine that? If that would have happened, we would have lost our minds, even if we didn't see Luke with a lightsaber. Just Luke shooting down some TIE fighters in an X-Wing, and then the movie ends with him and the rest of the Resistance at some location. They could have done something like that. That's why it's so low for me, but I do like this movie more than I thought. I'm sure Brian's going to bring this movie up as well. And his favorite scene in that movie is the best scene in the movie. So there's so many good things in it. But
the whole entire
his favorite Star Wars scene ever.
Yeah. And I'm sure he's going to talk about it at some point. So I'll let him do that.
All right, Mr. Avicino.
So my number 9 is what Jake had, which was the Phantom Menace.
Okay.
Well, for your
10. Got it at 10.
But it's funny because looking at these lists, anything except for really Attack of the Clones, I'm kind of like, it's
hard to place them in their spots.
The fact that they're on the bottom is like nonsense. There's no bottom in Star Wars.
Phantom Menace is like 1D or like 1H for me.
You know? Yeah. So it's
that's a good way to put
it. It's the nostalgia. I mean, we're prequel babies, as we always say, and I mean, getting to relive Star Wars I mean, we didn't get the original, but this was our original. So getting to have our own trilogy to call our own, even though it's not the greatest of all, it's still ours. And I'm very thankful for the stuff that came after, because it only helped improve these movies and make them more likable, except for Attack of the Clones. But but I mean, listen, I feel like we talk about it on every podcast, which is probably true. But Maul went from a 2-lined character to one of the most beloved, with one of the best storylines ever written in Star Wars. That says something about the movie that, I mean, even though they didn't see it at the time, they were able to take something and make something great out of it. And it helps improve that movie. And I mean, yeah, it's not in the top 5, but it's still a good movie. And it gave us our first introduction to Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan, which became freaking like everyone's
iconic.
favorite. Yeah, everyone's favorite character. Look at we're still pitchforked waiting for that damn TV show movie, whatever they were going to choose. And there is such fierce protectiveness over it. That just shows you how well they character developed. So yeah, it just comes up against a lot more competition, but for me it's number 9, but it's more of a little special place because that's like our movie. So yeah.
All right, moving on to my number 9, and that is the same as Mr. Bartley. I got The Last Jedi sitting there.
There we go.
Yeah, and I echo everything that you said, because we're essentially the same on this movie, right? We highly disagree with the decision to kill off Luke. As time has kind of grown, we've learned to appreciate a little bit more and like a little bit more. And I'm not afraid to say that the more I do watch it, the more it'll probably raise up my list. Because it's a very complex movie. And I've always said that it's a really, really good film. It just never really felt like a Star Wars movie to me. But I think over time, I'll start to learn about the Star Wars ins and outs and what Rian Johnson was specifically trying to do with Star Wars. And it's going to take time. And that's the type of filmmaker that he is. The Rey and Kylo stuff is obviously the spotlight. It's great. It's brilliant. It built really well off of The Force Awakens, what JJ had done there. And you had said something interesting about Luke, with jumping in an X-Wing and showing some skills again. It's a bummer because when you look at what he did in The Rise of Skywalker as far as lifting the X-Wing up,
that's true.
you think to yourself, you're like, he could have literally done something, and not just stay on the island. And it is a bummer that it ended that way, but that's the story they told. And just like accepting the movie, over time, I'm going to have to learn to accept that that's how they handled Luke. That's what they did with Luke. And I think over time, I'll start to appreciate it more and more. But for now, it is at the bottom tier at number 9. So The Last Jedi is at number 9 for me.
All righty. Yeah, and how you mentioned about The Last Jedi is that like it could go up. For me, it could easily surpass my next movie, and we're at number 8, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So my number 8 is Solo, a Star Wars story. This is crazy. Never thought I would have this above episode 8 and 9. That's, if you would have told me that before these movies came out, I would have said, heck no. But that's the case. I rewatched this movie. Well, we did a whole episode on it recently. And before that, I rewatched it. So it's pretty fresh in my mind. I enjoy it, man. There's not a lot about it. Look, my bottom 3 under this one, I could name you at least 5 things that I don't like about those movies. But this one, I can't list 5 things that I don't like. There's not that much that I don't like. I don't know what prevents it from being higher. Maybe it just doesn't really fit with the rest of the Star Wars movies in as much as even like a Rogue One does. But I do really, really like this movie a lot. It's a good movie. It's fun. It's entertaining. Even if it wasn't a Star Wars movie, it would just be a really good movie that I liked. So Solo Star Wars story coming in at number 8.
All right, Mr.
All right.
Brian.
For me, I am going to put The Last Jedi at number 8.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised. I'll be honest. I'm a little surprised.
Me
So-
too, actually.
I mean, I've I remember coming out of the movie saying this is the best Star Wars movie of all time.
You did say that.
I think you
You did.
actually. I think you might have said that might have been the best movie I've seen ever.
Yeah. I mean, I was so
A little high on your britches there.
endorphins when that movie ended. I will fight to the death and say that it gave us one of the best scenes of all time, if not, well, the best scene of all time in Star Wars. Yeah, I mean, I went from saying that to hating it to now I'm appreciating it for what it is. Do I still have some problems and issues with it? Yeah. I don't like the fact that the movie feels like it takes place in an hour of the Star Wars universe. Like, I mean, it goes by. That's very, very drastic from what anything of the other Star Wars movies have done. So for me, that part hinders it a little bit. I have no problem that it does what it does, but I don't know. I just kind of feel like we're getting like it feels like a Clone Wars episode where it's like a four thing arc where it just this one piece. So that part kind of has always bugged me a little bit, but I'm starting to love the like character stories coming out of it. And shockingly, like the other day I watched it, and don't get me wrong, Canto Bite's still like horrible, but I was like, okay, it wasn't that bad this time. So it's like a very slow burn that I'm learning to accept. Yeah, I love the Rey and Kylo aspect of it. And to be honest, I counter you guys that I'm not glad that Luke Skywalker died in this, but I am actually okay with it. I think
How dare you?
You know,
Listen.
look, this is the last time we're going to talk about this movie on this show. But so I just want to say, there's a lot of people that love what they did with Luke, and I'm like, I don't get it.
I don't know if I'd go as far as saying loving it, but I think it worked because for me, if he would have gone into 9, he takes away from these new characters in their stories. I mean, Luke Skywalker is like the overshadowing character of almost all of the movies. So for me, like it allowed them to have their time, show what they're doing, and go forward. And I mean, who knows what we would have ever gotten with the Rise of Skywalker if Carrie Fisher had stayed around. But I shouldn't say stayed around, hadn't passed away. That sounds horrible. But you know, though I don't actually, I'm one of the few that is actually okay with how they let Luke go at the end of it. So yeah, that's my number 8.
I would agree with you if he was in The Force Awakens. I would have been okay.
That's a
if they
great
killed him
point.
in the second movie, because, and just hear me out, because if he was in The Force Awakens, right, it's kind of like he's back. It's 30 years after the original trilogy. These new characters are stepping in, still trying to find themselves. Halfway through The Last Jedi, or at the end like he did then, he dies, and then it's all up to the new characters in the final film, like to kind of tell their own story and create a new path. I think I would be like, great. I love it. I love the story. I love that they did it. Like, I'm glad that he ended that way if he was in the first movie. But he was just a name in the first movie, and then we barely even saw him in The Last Jedi, really. It was just the scenes with Rey. We didn't get to see him interact with other characters, which I would have loved to have seen. Even the R2 was like, it was like a shoe-in scene with R2. He barely even talked with
R2 got
and
shaft out of
And
all
the
of it.
Chewie interactions weren't great either.
Exactly.
I see where you're saying, but again, that would, for me, then you're taking away from Han Solo. And Han Solo is probably arguably one of the best characters in that whole entire Force Awakens movie.
That's fine. Maybe Luke wouldn't be in the whole movie, but maybe he came in at the end, and you still have the Han Solo adventure, right?
I think they could have put him given him 20 minutes at the end of the movie.
Because one of my biggest critiques and one of my biggest hates, and it's a big word, but one of my biggest hates about the sequel trilogy is that we didn't get to see the original 3 on screen together, or
I will agree with
just Luke or Han.
Yep,
I wanted to see Luke and Han, and we didn't get that chance. So
yep, I will 100% echo you on that. That is the one criminal mistake that they made in the sequels, was not reuniting those 3.
Cool. All right, moving on to my number 8, and again, I'm following Mr. Bartley's lead on this, and that is Solo: A Star Wars Story. I'll echo everything you said, man. Super simple. What?
No.
We'll find out.
Yeah. So this movie is so much fun. I said it from the very second that I walked out of the theater. It's not the best Star Wars movie, but it's exactly what Star Wars should be. It's fun. It's lighthearted. It's adventurous. It has this kind of different type of swag to it that you really, really enjoy. I like Alden Ehrenreich so much as Han Solo. I know a lot of people don't, but I'm one of the people who really walked out of that theater saying I really like the portrayal of him because it's a different Han Solo. And I know that there's a whole bunch of behind the scenes issues, and I would have loved to have seen just whether it was Phil Lord and Chris Miller's vision or Ron Howard's full vision. That'd be an amazing alternate universe ask one day. But I just think that the movie is really fun. It's different. It's unique from itself. It's a Western in space, which I love myself a Western. And it focuses on my all-time favorite Star Wars characters. I can't really, back off from that. The connection with him and Chewie as well, the introduction there is brilliant.
Great, yeah.
Kira is a great add to Star Wars, has that great cameo at the end with Darth Maul. And so, yeah, I thoroughly enjoy Solo. And like you said, Jacob, very, very hard pressed to find some negatives for me on this one. So number 8 for me is Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Yes, indeed. And my next one is a movie that's not hard to find negatives, but I love it so much, and that is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. This is where it is at number 7. You guys know how much I love this movie. We said it so many times. We are from the prequel era. And look, for me, this movie I think it's underrated in how much it defines Star Wars today, because we've talked about this. There was no Sith mentioned until this movie. It created so much of the lore of what we now know. The Jedi Council was introduced in this movie. A lot of things that people just automatically associate with Star Wars, even people who claim to only be the original trilogy fans and hate these movies, they still use all the terminology, all the mythology, everything from this movie and the 2 other prequels. And I just think that's unnoticed or unappreciated, or not appreciated enough. So there's all of that, all the mythology, all the groundwork for everything going forward. But you got young Obi-Wan in there with the Padawan ponytail. I still want one of those. I can't grow one.
They sell them around Halloween.
Yeah,
I'll get you one.
Yeah, that's a good point. But Duel of Fates, oh my goodness. We just did our top lightsaber fights. It was way up there. We did our top moments. It was way up there, and gave us Darth Maul, gave us Qui-Gon Jinn, gave us pod racing. So there's just too much to enjoy in this movie for me to have it any lower than this. So Episode 1 is at number 7 for me.
Cool.
Sweet.
Ryan?
This is where it really started getting rough for me. In fact, I'm literally looking at it and I'm thinking I might want to switch it right now.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. This is where things started to really buckle down for me. And crap, I'm debating. Well,
5.
I told myself I wouldn't change it once we started. I told
2.
I'm just gonna. You know what? I'm gonna say The Force Awakens at 7.
Ooh.
Which is switching what I had.
I think I know what you switched it with, but I'll save that for a later conversation.
So Force Awakens brought us back into the fold of Star Wars. I mean, it had its moments of heartbreak of losing Han Solo, but everything up until that, he was hilarious and reminded us of why we've loved that character and just why he's so funny, and how he's a scoundrel, and Chewbacca. And I mean, we got our introduction to Rey and Finn and Poe. And I mean, it's funny because when you hear people talk about the prequels, they usually talk negative, but they always kind of leave this one out.
Sequels.
Oh, what did I say? Prequels?
You said prequels, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, sequels. Sorry.
I was like, wait a minute. What?
Yeah, you said prequels, and I was like, what?
Yeah, sorry. I meant sequels. When they talk about the sequels, it's usually a bash, and they usually talk about Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, and you never really hear this one. So it's a testament that I think, to be honest, it's kind of, to me, it's hard pressed to. I mean, they could have put a stinker out there, but it would have been really hard, I feel like, to make that movie bad just because of the pure excitement of getting Star Wars back. And I think that also helps drive the love for this movie too. It's a great movie. I mean, you get Han and Leia reunited, that whole relationship. Would I have liked to actually have been surprised that Kylo Ren was Han Solo's son? Yeah. I mean, we kind of figured that out within the first, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of the movie. First time he talks.
It's a subtle drop, and I actually really enjoyed the subtle drop.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So,
actually.
Yeah, but I mean, Adam Driver was, the most absolute
Psycho
perfect
killer.
Yeah, but listen, for me, anything from here on up is changed by my mood. But
well, you just changed it, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. I'll say this. For me personally, I made this list off of what movies I probably will tend to rewatch. And I associate rewatching it over and over and over again with being my favorites. And so for me, that's why I switched it at this last second. And I'm sure you'll figure out why. But
I already know, I think. But I'll say.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
All right, moving on. What are we on? 7, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so number 7 for me. This is funny because growing up, and watching Star Wars over and over again as a kid, this was never really a favorite of mine, but I've come to really love it as an adult. And it's interesting because it's not the most adult movie out of the bunch, and that is Return of the Jedi. It's very interesting how I look at this because you have the Ewoks, right? You kind of have the playful banter. It's a very different tone than you get with something like The Empire Strikes Back or New Hope. But as I've grown older, I've appreciated the storytelling and the themes that are within the film, specifically with the Luke and Vader and Emperor stuff. Obviously, you have the reveal with Han and Leia in there about Luke being the brother and all that type of stuff. It's really, really good. The final moments with Yoda and the score, obviously, with John Williams does a fantastic job. Also, the good guys end on a good note. You know, you rarely see that in Star Wars. There's a lot of bad guys winning a lot of the time, and they end on a good note. And it's a cool moment there. But yeah, it's funny because if we would have done this list maybe 5 years ago, this movie would have been near the bottom. It really would have been near the bottom for me. But I've watched it and I've liked it more and more as I watch it over time. And I love the Jabba stuff in the beginning. Huh?
You can't give me stuff about it then if it was.
Hey, you had it at number
10.
Now. He has it at number 7. So
I can now. But yeah, I really do like the film, and a lot of that has to do with the Luke stuff and the Vader stuff and the Emperor things. And but yeah, so number 7 for me is Return of the Jedi.
Well, what do you know? Number 6 for me is Return of Jedi. You know what? As a kid, I think this was my least favorite as a kid of the original trilogy. And I mean, it's obviously ranked lower than the other two on my list.
Still is.
But point being is that I remember the Jabba stuff as a kid, and I kind of I was very young. I remember it being scary, and I didn't really. It looked, and I remember I think the trailers for the prequel for Episode 1 was out, and it just like looked old to me. So again, I did appreciate this movie more later on in life, but it is. Look, this arguably has the best third act in Star Wars ever. I mean, I think it's in the top 3 for that. A lot of people would say Empire, but I think this might be the best third act in any Star Wars movie because you have the Emperor's throne room. I talk about it all the time, the son-dad conversation in the elevator leading up to the hallway, and then the sacrifice that Vader makes, the emotion shown in his turning face with just a mask on, just so many great things. Luke being tempted by the dark side and overcoming that and not doing it, throwing down his lightsaber, deciding not to fight, which is a very powerful message. There's so many great things about it, but it also has the worst elements out of all the original trilogy movies. So it's a really tough balance because, like I said, might have the best third act, but it does have some of the worst stuff even before the special edition. So but number 6 is a pretty good spot for this movie for me.
Fair enough. So for me, number 6, Jake, what did I switch it with?
Solo.
No. I switched it with
Okay.
I switched it with The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay.
It might be that I'm still it's still that new movie feel, that I'm still liking it. I actually kind of enjoy a lot of it, and especially the ending. I love the ending of the movie. I think
Speaking of third acts.
I could do without the Reylo kiss, but other than that,
Oh, of course, terrible.
yeah, I could have done without that. But other than that, when you have a band of people running on the top of a Star Destroyer, and then you have Rey and Ben fighting off Palpatine, and just the battle that is going on in the air. I absolutely love that ending, except for Snap dying. That's the hardest part for me because he's one of my favorite characters. I actually really like this movie a lot. I love, as much as I would have liked to see the Knights of Ren, I've kind of accepted that. It doesn't bother me as much because that was, if you remember, that was my biggest I was pissed when that happened. I've actually really started to grow to like this one a lot more. And it's funny because I do not care for the character of Rose in The Last Jedi, but in this one, I actually wish I had more of her, which is weird because
she was in the right role in this movie.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. This is what the way she was doing was what she should have been doing in the beginning.
And I think that was the right move to keep her with Leia in the beginning. And she's a badass at the end of the movie. She's going into battle, into war, something that most of us would never do. So she needs
100%.
more. Her character needs more credit.
100%.
Yeah. So it actually, which is funny because still to this day, I don't like her character in The Last Jedi, but in just the next movie, I'm I wish they would have added more of her because she's just like Jacob said, she's a badass at the end when she's running on that. She's leading a troop, and I think the way they handled Leia was beautiful, and we couldn't have asked for better with what we could have gotten. They could have written her out of the whole entire movie and just said she died and that was it. So I mean, yeah, I actually really, really like this movie more and more that I'm watching it, and yeah, it blows my mind that people actually like despise and hate this movie because
Those are called trolls.
well, Keith probably would have this as the
Okay,
worst
not like I'm saying like the people who are doing it on purpose.
Yeah, there's people who
Oh,
overload on it.
Yeah.
You mentioned Leia real quick. I love that Leia was training Rey and that she calls her
Yes.
Master Skywalker, and then the flashback scene with her training with Luke, amazing. It added so much to the character of Leia. She was a Jedi master, like training a Padawan.
Yes,
Crazy.
and they did this without Carrie Fisher, and that's what is amazing. And
Yeah, a lot of people complain about her use, but I think they did the best they could have.
yeah, I mean, you had someone that was no longer with us, and you made that character story better. And that that part just blows my mind, probably more than anything. But yeah, number 6 for me is that one, Rise of Skywalker.
All right, moving on for me. Number 6, a film that I have loved from the very beginning, and that is Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3. This movie's brilliant. Movie is absolutely brilliant. From here on out, my top 6 is
they're all brilliant, right?
Yeah, it really is. This is a movie that I will love till the day that I die. Everything about this movie to me is what the prequel should have been. I know that it had to reach this point to be able to do this. I think Hayden Christensen really found his groove in this film. Obviously, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan is the best in this movie, as he is the whole 3. The Padme storyline is great. Everything with Palpatine and the Jedi, and obviously we know about the 2 fights. At the end with Yoda versus Palpatine, and then Anakin versus Obi-Wan. The highlight of the films, and it's kind of like a culmination of the childhood, right? I was 7 years old when the first one came out, and by this time I was 13. And so for those 6 years, I've been watching these movies, and it ended with this moment of Anakin, this kid that I had watched in '99, becoming the big bad villain that we knew as Darth Vader. And so it holds a special place, and that's the definition of being a prequel baby right there. So for me, number 6 is Revenge of the Sith. Before we move on, guys, real quick, we're moving into our top 5. We will have to go a little quicker here because we're cutting short on time, but I want to mention there's 3 movies that have yet to be mentioned yet. Can you guys name them?
Yeah, that's A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Rogue One.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, those 3 movies have yet to be mentioned, which will be very interesting going forward. So, Jacob, take it away. Top 5, man.
I am not the one to break that. My number 5 is The Force Awakens, Star Wars. The Force Awakens, Episode 7. Remember when the episodes were a part of the title and with the prequels?
I wish they were in the sequels, man.
I really like that. Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. In my mind, they still are that, to be honest.
They are on IMDb. IMDb, they are listed that way.
Yeah. In our minds, like, we still call them Episode 7, 8, and 9. The Force Awakens, this is the peak of movie memories for me. Going to watch The Force Awakens the opening night. I've never had that experience before. Look, things like Infinity War have came close, but nothing ever like this. And I don't think anything ever will. There's nothing that would ever top this for me. So it's just, there's that special moment about it. But just looking at the movie itself, look, when this movie came out, we were just obsessed with these new characters, with Rey, with Kylo, with BB-8, and all these things. And Harrison Ford is so good in this movie. He really, really is. I love when I knew Luke, like that whole monologue of
scene is just, it gives me chills.
It's amazing.
Man.
It's amazing. And dude, Rey, this is my favorite movie of Finn's. He's okay in the Last Jedi.
He's the best in this movie.
He's all right in the Rise of Skywalker, but I loved Finn in this movie.
Yeah.
Him and Rey, once they get out into orbit, when they leave the planet, they're like, "How'd you do that? How'd you learn how to fly? How'd you learn how to shoot?" Like, they're all excited. And then when they're on Han's ship and they're crawling under the boards, they're back and forth. It's just so funny, and it's really just entertaining. And I just thought JJ was just on fire with this movie. I think his his 2 movies before this were the 2 Star Trek movies.
Yes.
I don't think he did anything in between. He was just on fire for me because I love those first 2 Star Trek movies and this movie. So I can't think of enough good things to say about it. I bought the CD of the soundtrack. I don't ever do that. Like I bought at the time my car had a CD player, and I guess they don't make cars with those in it anymore. But I bought the CD, and I remember playing it all the time, and it's just so much fond memories. So and there's so many things I didn't mention, but I hope you guys talk about it as well. But yes, Force Awakens coming in at number 5.
Nice. All right. So number 5 for me is going to be Revenge of the Sith. It closed out our prequel. What year did this release?
05.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I'm like about 14, 15. So I can actually finally like understand kind of what's going on, mature enough to understand what's going on. And just the end of that movie, dude, is just incredible. It's funny. I know I'm going to regret saying this. But I rewatched it the other day, and it was on TV. I rewatched it and I went, crap. This actually is the best lightsaber fight
it is.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny because it was like
I'm changing our rankings, by the way.
Yeah. I want
those type of things can change. Tomorrow you can change your mind again.
Nope, it's solidified.
And the sad thing is, I'm pretty sure it was like the day after we filmed it, or 2 days after. Those two just go at it, and it's incredible. And just that whole ending, like, honestly, if I just got the end of that movie, I'd be fine. From Order 66 on, it's just incredible. And that's not even, I mean, the rest of the movie's not bad either. Like, I mean, you had the whole Grievous storyline, and the Order 66 and on is just incredible. And yeah, it's funny because I hadn't watched that movie in a long time, and I guarantee you, if I wouldn't have watched it as recently, just off memory, just thinking, it probably would have been way, way lower on the rankings. But yeah, that's what I'm going to keep it. Number 5.
Sweet. All right, moving on to number 5 for me, and that is The Rise of Skywalker. Actually, this is the one movie I shifted before we got on video here. I did have it a little higher. I had it a little higher, but I really thought about it.
Wow.
I really kind of thought to myself, do I really like this movie a little bit more than this one? Do I like this movie a little bit more than this one? It did move a little bit, but I think the 5 spot is a perfect spot for it. And again, this could change easily. I could put it on tonight and be like, nope, that's one of the best movies out there.
Yeah.
But I really do enjoy this movie. And I had said that Solo, is, for me, was the epitome of what Star Wars is, because it's supposed to be fun and adventurous. To me, out of all the 11 live action movies we have, this is the most Star Wars movie that we have. Out of the 11, it is the most Star Wars-y film of the bunch, and that's why I love it so much. And, people can talk to me all day about bad editing or bad storytelling, or this character didn't do this correctly, or didn't match what I did in this previous movie, or it just doesn't feel right and the story's terrible, whatever. That's fine. I really like it. I've said this from day one. It's proof on this channel. I'm one of the 5 of us who have been I thoroughly enjoy this film.
Which one are we talking about?
All of them. I'm talking about all 9, or all 11 of them right now.
Yeah.
The Rise of Skywalker.
All 11 of them are the most Star Wars movies out there.
It's just funny because I've never heard you rave about it so much, and I agree with you. It's that good, but
I raved about it in a review. I raved about a review back in December about it. But
I did.
Yeah,
threw me off. I was like, what movie?
Yeah. So, and for me, obviously, all the lightsaber battles and the Rey storyline, and although I didn't like the fact that Kylo Ren went back to the good, the Ben Solo storyline was a good telling of the story. And there's just a lot of things about it I like, and the space battle at the end is incredible. Lando showing up with all the ships and everything. So I can go on and all day about it, but I really, really enjoyed the film. And so for me, the 5 spot is perfect for The Rise of Skywalker.
And don't forget, I am all the Jedi.
Yes. I wish I would have wore that shirt, but
yeah,
I'm still
definitely.
waiting.
So number 4 for me, and this surprised me, but it's grown very fond. I've grown very fond of this movie, and that is Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, coming in at number 4. I like this movie the more and more. Yeah, I don't even have to watch it. The more I just think about this movie, I like it.
I'm with you.
And I'm not gonna lie, a lot of it has to do with being able to read Catalyst first. I just remember this time as a Star Wars fan. We were coming off the Force Awakens, reading Catalyst, watching Rogue One, Vader hallway scene. That's all I need to say. Rogue One at number 4.
I like it. Short and sweet. I dig it. Yes, Brian, read Catalyst. You
have to, man. And then watch Rogue One right after.
Yeah, do it back to back. Yeah,
I will, because you guys do always hype that, and that's funny because Rogue One's my number 4 too.
Well, Rogue One's my number 4 too.
Our number 11's match and our number 4's match. There we go.
So,
easy enough. There we go.
This isn't even a Star Wars movie. This is a war movie.
Yeah.
That's set in the Star Wars universe. And I think I came out like that was good. Like it was good. The more and more I watch it, this movie is incredible. Like you could honestly almost show this to anyone if they hadn't seen it, hadn't heard of it, and they might not even figure out that it's a Star Wars movie.
No, I tell non-Star Wars fans that you should watch this movie first. People that I know won't like Star Wars. I say, watch this movie. You'll like this Star Wars movie. You know, like it's a good example for that.
It blows my mind. Every single actor that is in this is perfectly cast. Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso is incredible, and it guts me that they can't really use her or don't plan on probably using her anymore. And Jake, I know you remember before we went to that movie, me saying, there's no way they can kill everyone. There's no way Disney is ever going to allow that. There is absolutely no way. And you were like, I don't know about that. I was like, no, there is. I vehemently was like, there's no way. What happened? They had the balls to kill every single one of those characters. But yeah, I don't want to rave because Jake, you have it too. So
no, the only thing that I want to say is that it's and we haven't talked about it a lot during this, but the visuals are absolutely incredible in the film.
The beach at the end. Oh
everything about it from the cinematography to the VFX work, it is superbly done by everyone involved. And then I also wanted to say that you guys know how I feel about my war films. They essentially told a war story, right? They wrote down a film about a band of soldiers and just slapped Star Wars over the top of it. They weren't writing a Star Wars movie. They were writing a war film and just put Star Wars over the top of it, which is the exact way you need to do all these big budget films. That's exactly how you should do big budget films. And the film, it's funny because I was like, yeah, it's a good movie when it first came out. I have grown to love this movie so much over the last couple of years, and it's something that will continue to grow. It could eventually be a top film for me. It really could. And you guys have said the casting is brilliant. It really is, from Felicity Jones to Diego Luna all the way down to Alan Tudyk as K2SO and everyone involved. It's just spot on. And Gareth Edwards did an incredible job stepping in and directing, and then Tony Gilroy doing the reshoots and doing the rewrites and everything. Such a great job of how behind the scenes issues can become a positive. And so I hope that a lot of people look at this going forward. But yeah, Rogue One for me, definitely number 4. Perfect spot for it.
You don't hear very many complaints about this movie.
No, I hear a lot of people saying it's their favorite. So
yeah, for reals.
All right, let's get into our top 3, gentlemen.
And my number 3 is Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I don't know if you guys noticed I hadn't mentioned it yet.
I did, because I got the points up.
Look, Obi-Wan Kenobi, man. I don't know if I like him more in this movie or in Revenge or in The Phantom Menace. I like him in Attack of the Clones too. He's still good in Attack of the Clones, but it's hard because I love the young ambitious, immature Obi-Wan, but I also love this Obi-Wan because he's just so like when they at the beginning of the movie when they first land where their Palpatine's being held captive, he's so, even though they're going into this mission, he's so positive, and I just love the way he is. And this movie showed Obi-Wan just go through so much in however many days or hours this movie takes place over. He goes through so much, and he's one of the main reasons I love this movie, but also one of the greatest lightsaber fights in Star Wars history. So many great things. It honestly, Brian, you're talking about Order 66 on it's gold. I love the whole movie.
Yeah.
Honestly,
oh no.
I watched it one time and I was like, okay, how does this compare to the other prequel movies? And there's only one line that Anakin and Padme say to each other that is so cringy, and it's when, I forget the exact line, but it's when Padme's on the balcony and they're talking about how much they love each other. Basically, this is not what they do, but they're basically like, "I love you more." No, I love you more. It's that kind of thing, basically, and that's the only part. The whole rest of the movie, amazing. So, Revenge of the Sith.
No.
To be honest.
Oh, Jacob, that's terrible.
No, it
Okay,
is, but it's
move
not like I don't put it in top 5 worst Star Wars moments ever.
Fair.
I don't.
It's fair. It's fair.
All right. I've been waiting for this one. I think Jake figured it out while he was looking.
Yeah,
at
I already
this.
put the point in. I knew what you mean.
For me, number 3 is Solo, a Star Wars story.
Oh my goodness!
Hey,
Wow.
He's been saying this from I can bet he's been saying this from the beginning. Yeah.
I know. Look, I know you like the movie, but I didn't know it was. I didn't even know it was higher.
I didn't realize it'd be higher than Last Jedi. I will say that too.
Than the Last Jedi. The Last Jedi is my number 8.
I guess we
I know, but
mistake your love of the scene for the movie. I guess.
Yeah. yes.
I love this movie more than I ever thought I would, and
that's crazy.
It guts me, absolutely guts me that we might not ever see anything come from this movie. But if we don't, I'm still left with a movie that I never thought would be this good, and I absolutely love the characters in this movie. I was such a fierce proponent of Alden Ehrenreich's character, and just of him, just the actor playing the role. And he's one of the best parts of this whole entire movie. Jake just figured out something with points. L3, Woody Harrelson, freaking everyone, Kira, Lando, every character is phenomenal. Infant's Nest, amazing. It's just this movie is so criminally underrated, and is I could go on and on. I know we're short on time, but I absolutely love this movie. I probably honestly watched this movie more than any other movie.
Is it crazy to say this is might be the best Chewbacca movie? To be honest, it might be Chewbacca's best movie. I think it's an argument.
He has this is the most screen time he's ever had, right?
True. He's basically the second lead.
This and one of the originals, yes. I'm guessing something like The Empire Strikes Back, maybe too.
Yeah,
would be up there as far as screen time for him.
Yeah, but I mean, I love everything about this movie, and yeah, it's funny because I was sitting there doing this, and I was like, I'm really gonna put this one at number 3. And I was sitting I can't believe I even have it at number 3. But yeah, I'm gonna keep it there. Solo, Star Wars story.
All right, number 3 for me, something that has not been mentioned by me. I'm guessing you guys can probably guess, and that is The Force Awakens. It is the movie that brought us all back into Star Wars. I don't need to say much on it. Jacob touched on the experience we had with this film together as a group. I know Brian wasn't a part of it back then, and I know he hates that, but the group experience we had watching this film and the lead up was just second to none. I remember exactly where I was when that first teaser trailer came out. It was 7 a.m. on Thanksgiving weekend. I remember that. It just came out and it blew everybody's mind. the film itself, I know that a lot of people say, oh, it's just a knockoff of New Hope. To me, it's not a knockoff to New Hope at all.
Not
I
at
think it's
all.
a completely different film. I think there's going to be similar story beats, but every film has similar story beats in Star Wars. That's what happens with a story like this. And it's just, I think it's brilliantly told. I think it's one of JJ's best. Jacob, you had mentioned the Star Trek stuff, and I think it's right up on par with some of those films, especially Star Trek 09. The film is incredible. The introduction of someone like Rey, the introduction of someone like Kylo Ren, Poe Dameron, just incredibly good characters. You had mentioned Finn. I think it's his best film for sure. And it's funny because, the new music obviously plays a huge part of it. And so I don't need to take much time on this one, but it's a beautiful film, and it's something that'll always hold special in my heart because of the exact experience we had with it. So number 3 is The Force Awakens.
All righty. I knew you were going to have that the highest.
I didn't get to have with it.
Here we go. My number 2 is Empire. The Empire Strikes Back. And there's tons of reasons why everybody loves this movie. It is the consensus best Star Wars movie. Most people have it as their number 1. And I have it at my number 2. And I won't take much of the screen time for this, but I will say for me why it's so high is because it pushed forward the greatest love story ever told between Han and Leia, and their dynamic in this movie is amazing, and that's my favorite part of it. So I'll just say that. Number 2.
I love when she hurts her thumb, and then he's like, "Oh, are you okay?"
Yeah.
He does that little swag. So
good. He's such a playboy, but
so good.
He's so romantic. Like, how does she not fall for him?
Oh, dude, crazy. Yeah, such good swag.
And C-3PO walking in on them kissing, just gold.
That is my number 2 as well. I mean,
what do you know? I got the points right.
I knew it. That's what you were smiling about.
We all knew that Jacob and I were going to have this one at 2. And
I was so happy to find out. I remember we were in your apartment. I found out that you also have A New Hope at number 1. So, spoiler alert.
But
everybody knows.
I would say probably my second favorite scene out of all of Star Wars is Hoth. That whole Hoth.
Oh, that's true. You do love that, yeah.
So I used to just literally turn on the movie and just watch Hoth. So it felt like watching the Hoth scene. So, I mean, it's such a great movie, but I'm gonna stay quiet and leave it for someone else that has it at number 1.
Well, you don't know that. You don't know that. Number 2 for me is A New Hope. Number 2 for me is A New Hope.
I'm actually surprised you have A New Hope at number 2. I thought it'd be a little bit lower.
No, this movie. It's just, and I mean, it's not a spoiler here, obviously, and I can just touch on it. Number 1 is The Empire Strikes Back for me. Obviously, it's the only movie left for me. These 2 movies, I've talked about it multiple times. I've told close friends and family that if I'm like in a very bad mood or something has really happened in my life, I'll go lock myself in my room or I'll sit on the couch and I'll put these movies on. And it can be either one on any other day. It's just kind of like an escape for me with these 2 films specifically. We talk about this a lot with podcasting, but for me, if I'm not shooting something with you guys or just in general, I'll sit down and I'll put the movies on and just have them in the background. I don't even have to be watching them. I can listen. I know exactly what's happening in the movie. And so they just very much hold a special place in my heart. But for New Hope, it's the film that started it all. It's about this small town kid and Luke Skywalker who has big dreams, and he gets thrust into this world that he has no idea about, and the adventure of learning about all these details with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Princess Leia. And even though at the time we didn't know who they were, the end result makes the movie better. Learning out that Leia is Luke's sister, learning out that Darth Vader is Luke's father, who Ben Kenobi was later on in life, with Obi-Wan in the prequel trilogy. And obviously the trench run, we've talked about it multiple times, how incredible that action sequence is. The introduction of the lightsaber and the Force. And it's such a beautiful film. And then, so A New Hope ranking at number 2.
Well, yeah, obviously it's my number 1. I mean, Jake, you talked about watching these movies during hard times. I don't want to make people too sad, but I had something really bad happen to me, really bad. And the first thing I did when I went in my room and laid in my bed, I put on A New Hope. It's the only thing that could make me feel better. And it did. And that's the power of these movies. People think that we're just, we're simply fans of these films. And while we are, it's much more than that. And this movie does a lot for me. But also, there's so many things about it. Princess Leia is just great in this movie. The trench run, the Obi-Wan explaining the Force, it was all of our Star Wars firsts. And to me, honestly, it is weird to say, but it's the most underrated Star Wars movie. I really believe that.
I would agree with that.
A lot of people, even when people put their lists together, like a lot of people won't even have it in their top 2 or their top 3. They'll have it a lot lower. And the arguments I get are it's boring, it's slow. And I have a tough time not getting into arguments with people when they say that. And look, it's all subjective, right? It's all based on our opinion. I can't tell someone they should feel differently about it. But for me, this movie's so special, and it is for sure number 1.
Yeah, it's number 1 for me as well. I love this movie from beginning to end. It's so good. I love the introduction of Han Solo, this snarky, sweet talking scum guy, and then you got Princess Leia with her sass of just she's right. No matter what's going on, she's right. She's leading.
And she usually is.
Yeah, and she's leading, and she's right. And then you got the naivete of Luke Skywalker, but still this kid that wants to be brave and make a change and make a difference. And I mean, you've got this looming Darth Vader character that is arguably the greatest villain of all time, and General Tarkin, just how his quick, sharp tongue just terrifies you. And I mean, just the way Obi-Wan talks, it's just like you're closing your eyes and you're there listening to a story. But yeah, I love this movie from beginning to end. It's funny because Empire Strikes Back was my favorite for a very long time, but then over the last couple of years, A New Hope took over its place. So yeah, that's Jacob. I agree with you. Number 1 for me, A New Hope.
All right. Well, no surprise here. Empire Strikes Back, number 1 for me. I mentioned earlier. It's not just my number 1 Star Wars film, but it's actually my number 1 film of all time. For me, it is, to me, perfect storytelling, perfect character development. Just everything about it is perfect. There's not a single thing wrong with it for me. I think what they did as far as upping the ante from A New Hope to this film is second to none, really, in film history. It's also, it started a trend. It was the first film of its kind in that the good guys lost, right? Every film leading up to this point, the good guys had always come out at the end and won. They lost. Han Solo was, to them, dead in carbonite somewhere, gone. Luke Skywalker had lost his hand, right? They were on the outs. And that's the first time during this time period that we had ever seen this. And so, and then Jacob, you had mentioned the development of Han and Leia in this film as well. Incredible. And so just everything about it to me is absolutely perfect. And there's no way at any point in time, no matter how old I am or what movie comes out, that anything will ever top this for me. This will always be my number 1 Star Wars film.
That's fair.
Awesome. And I'll say the same. A New Hope is my favorite movie of all time, too, if it wasn't obvious.
Yeah.
All right, gents. Well, here it is. We have the official list up. We have 11 movies on this list. Give me 1 second. This dog is going crazy. Jesus. Come here.
The mascot, Kylo, in the background.
Did you see how much attention he was trying to get in the back? Laying on his back.
All right, so here we go. 11 movies, starting out at number 11. No surprise here with just 3 points. That is Attack of the Clones, episode 2.
Oh, that's literally the lowest amount of points you can get.
Moving on to number 10, all the way up with 10 points, and that is Star Wars: The Last Jedi, episode 8.
Surprised.
Number 9, also with 10 points, but because it was just a little bit higher in someone's list, that is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Okay.
Number 8, coming in with 13 points, is Episode 6, Return of the Jedi.
Wow, that's all Brian's doing.
Yes, that is all Brian's doing. That is 100% all Brian's doing. Number 7 with 15 points is The Rise of Skywalker. Number 6 with 17 points is Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Boo.
Moving into our top 5, our official top 5 here, gentlemen. Here we go. With 21 points, we have Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. With 1 point ahead at 22 points, ranking it at number 4, is Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Wow. That's crazy.
2 points above that for the top 3 spot with 24 points is Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. And moving into our top 2 with 31 points is Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. And just 1 point ahead of it at 32 points is the original A New Hope, Star Wars Episode 4. Can shake it down. I mean, look, it's expected. It really was expected on my end. I'm not expecting the Empire Strikes Back to be above it. But I'm glad. Look,
dude, the top 5.
Our official top 5. Force Awakens, Revenge of the Sith, Rogue One, Empire Strikes Back, and A New Hope. All 3 trilogies are represented in that top 5.
Spin-off movie.
And a spin-off. You are correct.
And 1 movie from all 3, 2 from the original trilogy, which makes sense. That I love that. It's perfect.
Great list. That's a really, really, really good list.
Brian,
any thoughts?
Trying to get Solo higher, but no.
Number 6 is not bad.
It's a top 5 is a great list. Poor Jake keeps getting screwed out of his number 1 spot because
every time we do a Star Wars ranking, you two are on the same page.
The 3 of us,
and I get screwed.
Yeah. If we reshot that lightsaber one, though, you would probably have that top spot.
All right, gentlemen. Well, there it is. Our official Star Wars live action film ranking. I'll post this on social media later. The show's going to go up on Tuesday, and I'll probably post this official ranking, our personals, and the official top 5 for the Padawan probably on Wednesday. You guys will see that all over our social media. So follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Apocaflix Movies. For now, we are the Padawan Podcast. Again, guys, if you guys did not see a couple weeks ago, we announced that we are going to be putting both the Padawan Podcast and Nerd Nation on hold for a little while for the foreseeable future. After next week, you will not see another Padawan Podcast for a while. Next week is our final episode going into the break. Little sad on our end, yes, but we're going to be doing our Star Wars favorites. And so that's going to come down to not just talking about the movies and maybe favorite trilogy and characters, but favorite lightsaber colors, favorite books, favorite comics, stuff like that. Kind of just diving into why we love Star Wars so much. So make sure you guys join us every Tuesday, last Tuesday next week for the Padawan Podcast. For Brian, for Jacob, myself, we are the Padawan. This is Apocaflix Movies. Make sure you guys are following us not just on YouTube, but also podcast platforms, Anchor, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere else. So again, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you guys next week, and may the Force be with you.